Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Educator Calls Snap channel. How you doing? So, for today's video, we're going to be reviewing all the Spotlight caches for June and going to be giving them a tier rating just based on how valuable I think those caches are. Now, we do have some adjustments we're going to be making, looking at it from an individual standpoint and from if you're getting a new card or not. We're not really going to be looking at it from a Spotlight variant cache card. Obviously, those can be used to adjust whether you think one is valuable or not, but we're basically looking at it from you're getting a new card, how good is it holistically as a cache, or if you're getting only 2 new cards, or if you're only getting that single new card. So that's the idea here. I do have a rating section, so this is going to be essentially how it's going to be looking. I want it to be clear, I want it to make sense, but we have the ratings going from S to D. I guess I could put F instead of D, but S to D. S is no brainer, everyone should be interested. A is very good as well, you should consider getting this. B tier is a solid choice if you like one of the available cards. So basically, if there's a card that you really want to play with, like for example Jean Grey, and the cache is the B tier, then if Jean Grey is enough for a pull for you particularly, then yes, you can get it. C is not really recommended. Now, that's going to change because most of the C tiers are usually ones with Spotlight variants in them. Now, if you like a particular Spotlight variant, like for example this null variant, if that's good enough of a draw for you, then you're going to be, that might be enough of a pull to get something that I would put in C tier. And then D tier, I would say I don't really recommend it, but if you're a player that's focused on Spotlights or you really like a particular card, then yeah, obviously this is all pretty subjective and it's just generally on how good is this card in the game to play, not really any Spotlights affecting the criteria here. Now here you can see on the top, this is what it's going to look like. So for example, for Jean Grey, we have Jean Grey. That's the only new card you're getting in this example, and then the other 2 are Spotlight variants. Now I have this premium mystery variant as a representation. Doesn't mean you're getting premium mystery variant. This just means you're getting the Spotlight variant, but there's no like Spotlight variant like image to put in, and I did put all the Spotlights in there, but it just looks more confusing if I don't have a distinction. Like, this isn't a new card you're getting. You're getting a variant, but it's not a new card. So that's the distinction there. And then I do have the Spotlight variants on the top right side if you just want to look at that and have that be a clear image for you. So this is the rating. Hope it makes sense. We'll get right into it. So first off, we do have this first bundle here. So this is exactly what it looks like. So for this week 1 bundle, I guess I could have put week 1 somewhere. I'm still working on it. Let me know how it looks, if it's clear for you. But for the first bundle, if you do not have Jean Grey, Null, Tribunal, I didn't do one where you already have the new card, because for most people that's not going to be the case, right? You're not going to buy Jean Grey off of the token shop and then look to get the Spotlight variant. If that's you, then obviously you have different priorities and you don't need something like this, right? Like if you already have Jean Grey and you're still like, do I want to get Null Tribunal right after spending 6K on Jean Grey? Like that's not really who we're focusing on. We're focused on people who are saving Spotlight caches and want to know what they want to focus it on. So here, if you don't have Jean Grey and Null and Living Tribunal, I think it's a B tier. Essentially, you have to want the cards, right? You have to want to play with Jean Grey. You have to want to play with Null. And then I would say, yeah, if that's the criteria, then yes, you can get it. Same thing for if you have Tribunal, but you're missing Null and Jean Grey. You have to want to play with Jean Grey. You have to want to play with Null. I wouldn't say Jean Grey is the most powerful card in the game, right? There's a lot of hype for, it might lock down. And it was kind of broken with Goose. I will say that, like, if that interaction still worked, like, yes, then this would jump up a couple of tiers, but that's not the case. So right now it's really played in Silver Surfer decks, so I wouldn't necessarily say you need to play Jean Grey. Like, it's just another tool that you can have, but not really necessary. It doesn't make its own archetype or anything like that. So definitely would say B tier. You have to want to play these cards. Now, I actually did get. I actually opened up the cache, maybe because it's the first one. I didn't really fully think about it, but I went for the C tier one here, where I had Null. I didn't have Tribunal or Jean Grey. I in my tier list, that would be a C tier card. I did go for it. I do like the Null variant, so you could definitely argue that this Null variant here is enough of a pull to go for something, even if it's C tier. Just because, yeah, you're getting two new cards, plus you're also getting a pretty cool Null variant. Same thing for if you already have Tribunal and Null, then you really need to like the variants to go for this. Now, I think the variants are cool, but in terms of progression, in terms of if you're a new card, you really need to be missing Null and Jean Grey for this to be a B tier kind of rating, in my particular um, opinion, right? It's pretty subjective, but that's my current thoughts on this particular Spotlight cast. Now, for next week, we do have Echo, Iron Lad, and Kang. I would say it's very similar to this previous one, where I would say it's a B tier one. You have to be wanting to play with Iron Lad. You have to be wanting to play with Echo. You have to be wanting to play with Kang. I do have that Kang. If you're just getting Kang and Echo, it's not good enough to be a B tier. Kang right now isn't necessarily the strongest card. There are some clear downsides. You lose some valuability, and a lot of times, if you play Kang and you don't have an answer, you still just lose. You do get that ability to snap, which is kind of cool. So there's definitely some benefits to playing it, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's enough to justify. I recommend people use their Spotlight caches on this particular set of cards. So same thing here. If you want Iron Lad, Iron Lad's good enough to be worn to B tier, especially if you're getting Echo as well. But Kang, I wouldn't say for sure, unless you like the variant. Same thing here. If you're only getting Echo, Echo's an okay card, but I really don't think it's going to be changing the meta. It has the weaknesses. It's a one drop. Its base stats aren't super good, and it doesn't work in every matchup. There's going to be some decks that don't play ongoings and all. So same thing here. Very similar to the first cache. You have to be wanting to play these cards, and if you do, then I would say this is a decent set of cards for Spotlight. Next up, we do have the Legion High Evolutionary and Darkhawk set. This is the first one I have in A tier. So this one, I think if you're missing both High Evolutionary and Darkhawk, like this is a really good set to get. Like this is just a very powerful set of cards. High Evolutionary is really powerful. Still strong. You got nerf, but the nerf I don't think is enough to put it out of the meta, so you can still very easily play High Evolutionary and do well. And Darkhawk's just been a very good card since it came out. It's been getting nerfed, but still has some playability. And there's lots of ways to play Darkhawk. You can put it in negative, you can put it in Dino, you can play it solo, you can put it in other Beast Bast synergy decks. So there's just a lot of flexibility with Darkhawk. So I think those are really good. If you are missing both of those cards, this is a very powerful Spotlight cast that gets the only one I have in A tier so far. And then if you are just missing High Evolutionary and the new card, then I also think that's decent, right? Kind of like the other caches where, yeah, you're getting High Evolutionary by itself with the new card is pretty good. Same thing with Darkhawk. Getting Darkhawk by itself with the new card is pretty good. So if you really do want to play with High Evolutionary, you do want to play with Darkhawk, I would say these are a decent set of caches to get. But if you are missing both, this is a A tier level cache, so that's something to be aware of. And if you already have High Evolutionary and Darkhawk, like Legion by itself, I would say is not necessarily something you want to be spending your Spotlight caches on. Now, if it does drop as a series 4 card, there's going to be one every month, right? Then maybe you could spend your tokens on it if you like Legion that way. But generally by itself, I just don't think it's worth really using up to 4 Spotlight caches to get the Legion. So that's my thoughts there. And then finally, for the last one here, we do have the Mirage Standos Master Mold. So you could see that there's a lot of similarities here in terms of the viability. So it seems to me this is like their idea of a good set of cards. It's the new card plus like a very powerful, enticing card, right? Whether that's High Evolutionary, Darkhawk, well, not Darkhawk, High Evolutionary, Thanos, Null, or what was the other one they were giving you? Or Iron Lad, right? Then the third card seems to be like not as good, not as necessary, right? Master Mode isn't really that powerful of a card. It's okay, but you're really not using it in that many decks, and it's just not that flexible. So once again, if you want Thanos, right, then this is a good enough spotlight cast, I would say. If you really want Thanos, yes, you can get Thanos. That's essentially what's going on with all of these. If you really want High Evolutionary, yes. If you really want Iron Lad, yes. If you really want Null, yes. But the third one doesn't really make it that much better. So same thing here. If you are missing all these cards and you really want to play with Thanos, then this is definitely something you can get. Same thing if you just missing Thanos, you'll still get this. If you're missing just Master Mode, I really wouldn't recommend it unless you really like that Thanos variant, right? So that's another thing, right? Where if you really like the variants, then right, this can be reasonable. You are still getting a new card, maybe two. So there's still some value there. And if you're just missing only the Mirage, then you have to want to be playing with Mirage, which some people do, of course. But in terms of like, is this a no-brainer? Not really. So you can see overall for this season, only if you're missing High Evolution and Darkhawk do I really say, wow, that's a good one. Because there's definitely a lot of good sets coming up, new cards, right? Some of my older videos, we've talked about the cards coming out in September, and those, right, might be pretty interesting. And the more you skip, eventually you'll have sets where you're missing all three cards, right? So the longer you're holding on to your caches, the more likely you're going to see something where you're missing every single card. You can really take advantage of it. So there's no rush to use your spotlight caches. That's definitely something. If you are focused on progression, is something to keep in mind. So you can definitely just wait it out until you find something really good. Or if there's a new card coming in that's really powerful, then also that could be a good pool. So I didn't do ratings for the ones in this season, mostly because there's two things. First of all, it's not guaranteed that these are going to be confirmed or the spotlights for these are going to be confirmed. Even the ones this season are not confirmed as well, right? The spotlights, but that's one reason. And the second reason, people just don't go back and watch old videos for this, right? I can see the data now. Obviously, it would make more sense to wait until it's very near this season coming out than to make a video rating these cards. Is just people don't look at the old stuff, and that makes sense anyways. So there's always new videos and data to watch into, and generally, just another video for me. I gotta keep my head in the game, and that's set up there. But overall, once it gets closer, we'll make a video rating these cards, and I'll also have more information and things like that. But generally, that's my current thoughts on which caches you get. I hope this is clear in terms of like, yeah, if you're getting 3 new cards, yeah, this is pretty good. If you're getting 2 cards, might be good depending on the card. If you're getting only that new card, that you might want to be apprehensive about that decision, right? Because you're only getting 4 caches a month, right? And you're essentially getting up to 16 uses if you want everything, right? So you're not really getting the freedom to get everything. So you have to be a little bit more selective here. So that's why it seems a little bit harsh in my opinion when you look at it as like, ooh, I got a C tier one or I got a B tier one, right? Like, but the S tiers have to be they have to make sense, and the A tiers also have to make sense. So that's why it looks a little bit harsh. But I'm just trying not to have people be like, oh, this is A tier, let me get it, and then it's just like bad for them, right? So that's the idea here. But anyways, that's the thoughts on it. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know the thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves and have a wonderful rest of your day. Educated calling snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you tomorrow, snap.
your skills will be
Oh, you can hear that.
improving. How you doing?